My name is Ethan Marlowe, and I work as a forensic sound analyst, the person people call when there is something wrong with a recording that no one else can explain, when a security camera picks up a voice from an empty hallway, or when a crime scene audio file holds a sound that does not match any human frequency range. My entire job is to listen to things most people ignore and to turn noise into evidence. But tonight, I am not talking to you as a professional. Tonight, I'm talking to you as a man who still wakes up at 3 in the morning with the echo of a bell in his ears and the feeling that stone walls are listening back. Because today, I want to share one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. An experience I faced almost 3 years ago inside the Castle of Good Hope in Cape Town, South Africa. A place that looks like a postcard in daylight and turns into something ancient and hungry when the sun goes down. If you have never been there, let me paint it for you so you can see what I saw. Because geography matters in this story. History matters. Everything about this place matters. The Castle of Good Hope, or Kasteel de Goede Hoop, sits in central Cape Town near the intersection of Darling Street and Buitenkant Street, its pentagonal outline still visible from above, one of the oldest surviving colonial buildings in South Africa. Built between 1666 and 1679 by slaves, soldiers and sailors under the Dutch East India Company, it once faced the coastline of Table Bay before the land was pushed outward and the sea moved away. Now the fort that once watched the ocean stands inland, surrounded by traffic and city lights that have no idea what sleeps inside those walls. The 5 bastions have names that sound almost noble when you first hear them. Leerdam, Buren, Nassau, Oranje and Katzelnellenbergen. But when you walk along them at night, they feel less like crowns and more like teeth. Like you are standing inside the open mouth of something that has swallowed centuries of pain and has never really digested it. This castle once housed a church, a bakery, barracks, workshops, a gallows, and underneath it dungeons and a torture chamber called Donker Gat, the Dark Hole. A windowless dungeon that reportedly flooded so fast prisoners drowned where they stood, their last screams swallowed by stone and rising black water. And when you know that, the air itself feels thicker when you walk over certain sections of the floor. I knew a lot of this before I arrived, because I research every site I visit. And the Castle of Good Hope has a reputation that reaches far, far beyond Cape Town. Stories of phantom footsteps in the corridors, blood-curdling screams during late-night guard shifts, the bell in the bricked-up bell tower ringing on its own, a black dog that lunges at visitors and vanishes before it touches them, a tall, luminous figure seen walking the walls, and the bitter ghost of Governor Peter van Noot, cursed on the gallows and found dead in his office the same day his face twisted in shock. Normally, I would smile at such stories. But there was something different in the air even before I crossed the bridge. Cape Town felt strangely quiet that night. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own heartbeat, the outline of Table Mountain fading into the sky, the mist from the Atlantic drifting against the streets. And in the middle of it, this low stone star of a castle sat in the Western Cape, as if someone pressed it into the ground and walked away. I arrived after closing hours with permission to record overnight for a research project on infrasound in historical buildings. A caretaker named Willem met me at the gate. He held old iron keys that looked heavier than his hand. "If you need me in the night," he said, "pray instead." He laughed, but his eyes did not. Inside the walls, the city noise cut off instantly. Cape Town felt a world away. I unpacked my equipment on a table near the inner wall. A multi-channel recorder, directional microphones, contact mics and studio headphones. The air smelled of damp stone and dust mixed with something metallic, like old blood washed but never gone. My plan was simple. Record in stages, starting in the courtyard, then the corridors, then the bastions, and at last the dungeon. The first hour was normal, wind, insects, distant cars. Then midnight came. I stood near the center of the courtyard, testing a contact mic pressed into the stone, when the bell rang. The bell tower is sealed, the rope removed, the opening bricked up. Yet the bell tolled, deep, heavy, undeniable. I looked up at the tower top, no movement, no sway, nothing, but my recorder captured the sound cleanly. Midnight, perfect. Behind me, footsteps echoed, boots on stone, measured, heavy, approaching. I shone my headlamp. The sound stopped. I turned it off. The sound resumed, tap, tap, drag. A faint, metallic clink. My rational mind whispered, "Guard," but my chest tightened. I called out, "Hello?" The footsteps retreated deeper into the dark corridor as if guiding me, and I followed. The passage narrowed and cooled. Infrasound readings rose around 19 hertz, the anxiety frequency. I wanted to turn back, but the footsteps changed. They became bare feet slapping fast against stone, and beneath them, a scraping metallic drag like chains. I was now nearing Donker Ghat. When I touched the iron latch, the cold bit my skin. The moment I stepped inside, the smell hit me. Damp, mold, old leather, and something sharper that felt like panic soaked into the walls. I set microphones, turned off my lamp, and stood in darkness to record clean ambience. For 3 minutes, silence. Then the dungeon breathed, the sound of chains swaying, metal tightening under strain. Then the breathing, fast, shallow, terrified. Voices emerged, overlapping each other, dozens of them, echoes of panic and despair. Screams followed, real screams. Not cinematic, not exaggerated, raw, broken-throated screams of people who knew they were going to die. My body froze. My brain whispered explanations, acoustic imprint, infrasound hallucination, but the screams rose until one voice detached from the rest. A whisper, right behind my left ear. It spoke my name. Ethan. My blood dropped to ice. My breath misted in the pitch darkness. I spun, knocking over a tripod, but there was nothing. The whisper came again, brushing my skin like breath. Ethan, hear us, hear me. My chest seized. I lunged for my headlamp. The second the beam hit the dungeon, everything stopped. Silence, dead, consuming silence. I grabbed everything and fled the lower level. The courtyard felt safer, but only slightly. Cape Town's stars shimmered above me, but the castle held its own darkness. Then I saw the black dog. It walked out from the shadows, low and muscular, eyes reflecting nothing. It stared at me, then suddenly charged. I pushed back, bracing myself for impact that never happened. The dog vanished inches before touching me, simply gone. I was shaking now. I checked my audio, everything recorded. I forced myself up to Bastion Orange. From there, Cape Town sprawled beneath the night sky, Table Mountain, a looming shadow behind the city bowl. The wind cooled my face. I almost relaxed. Then I saw the man, standing at the rampart's far edge, tall, dressed in an old military coat and tricorn hat. His outline shimmered, barely solid. I froze. The figure raised his head and began turning toward me. Every instinct screamed, "Do not let him see you." I stepped back into the shadows. In my headphones, a new sound appeared, a man muttering in angry Dutch or Afrikaans. The voice layered itself, growing sharper, heavier, more furious. The recorder levels spiked. Suddenly, a shout, so loud it cracked the audio. A force slammed my chest. I stumbled backward, nearly falling off the rampart. My hand caught the stone edge. Pain shot through my arm. For one horrible second, I knew the figure was behind me, watching with hatred. Then he was gone. The courtyard below warmed with city noise again. I climbed down, trembling, and went to the Decat balcony to wait for dawn. There I sat, back against the wall, recorder running on the railing. Around 3 a.m. the soundscape shifted without a transition. The courtyard filled with activity, but none of it visible. Boots lined up, muskets grounded, chains rattled, orders barked in Dutch. A voice from right beside me delivered a proclamation. I realized I was hearing history replay itself. A wave of sorrow slammed into me, too sharp, too specific to be my own. Someone who once stood here had watched helplessly as loved ones were taken below. I felt their fear as if injected directly into my chest. Then the heartbeat came, not mine, loud, steady, close. The recording captured everything. Then silence again, heavy, absolute. Into that silence, a woman's voice whispered beside my ear, "You hear us. Do not forget us." I turned slowly. No one. Just the castle walls and the faint outline of Cape Town waking beyond them. But the sorrow in that voice settled inside me. At dawn, Willem unlocked the gate. When he saw me still there, he said, "Most people leave early." I only nodded. Back home, I analyzed the audio. Everything was there. Every scream, every chain, every whisper, every curse, every heartbeat, the woman's voice. Nothing matched known interference. Some sounds existed outside normal human frequency ranges. The castle had recorded its own pain, and I had listened. Today, those files sit in a folder on my hard drive labeled Cape Town Castle. Sometimes at night, I play them again. The dungeon screams, the chains, the heartbeat, the whisper saying my name. And every time I hear the soft plea, "Do not forget us," I answer quietly, "I remember." If you ever stand inside the Castle of Good Hope and the air shifts around you, if you hear footsteps that don't belong or a bell that should not ring, remember one thing. You are not just walking on history, you are walking on unfinished stories, and some of them are still trying to be heard.